The time period was 1978. I was aged 18 and I was living in a flat in Kelvinside Terrace, and I was living up at the top flat right, and when you went through the big door, big heavy door, there would be 2 rooms on the left, 2 rooms on the right, a used room at the far end, and I got a room. There was a guy who was a student from Sudan called Sahel, beautiful guy. He moved out and I moved into his room, which had a bed in this room which swung down. The rooms weren't particularly big, that was the reason for the swing. The bed could swing up. I tended to keep it down all the time because it ended up being a bit like a couch as well as a bed, and I tended to keep it swung down. And but also there was a painting of the devil in the bed underneath, a very vibrant picture painting of the devil. So that was another reason why I kept it out of sight, because it was getting me slightly unsettled. So I would keep it out of sight by pointing it down, keep the bed swung down. And I made a little library at the back of my bed. It was a wee shelf, and I used to have all these wee paperback books like Aldous Huxley, The Doors of Perception, and Brave New World, and stuff by The Dice Man was a book I had there by I can't remember that guy's name was, and Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. I think it was Robert Pirsig, I think was a Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. The Dice Man, I think it was Luke Reinhardt, or was that the character? So I had these very fancy intellectual philosophical books in wee paperbacks on my wee shelf. And the fairly small room, and there was these big chalk drawings of people who looked like Duran Duran covers, of women with chiselled jawlines and men with big square jaws, looking very trendy, made out of chalk. And Cindy, who was my girlfriend, she was the artist, and Cindy looked like Wonder Woman. She was almost identical to Linda Carter, and she was a complete extrovert with these laser eyes. So she had big wide eyes, and they were laser-like, and she used to be very extrovert and super confident and intimidate people, frighten people, just because of her magnetic power. And in those days, people really didn't wear clothes. My reason was because I didn't have any clothes. Other people's reasons because they were just hippies and thought clothes were a drag. So there was a woman across the landing, not across the hallway, called Anna, and she was 26. Her face looked very old and haggard, but nice face in a sense, but her body was rocking. She had a fantastic athletic body, but with quite a lot of loose living. Her face was showing the toe, whereas Cindy was very fresh-faced and round, rosy cheeks, a picture of health and vitality. And she didn't wear much clothes, and liked to get her clothes off a lot, just because she was very body confident. So for generally just padding around, she would wear one of my shirts, perhaps, which was bigger for her, but it just got to the top of her thighs. So she'd look very trendy, very cool in this, and this had a cool kind of hippie type of look of her wandering about with these super strong legs, all nice and shapely, with my shirt on, open at the collar, and it was just, that was her. And she'd have long Wonder Woman type of hair She was quite a picture, and she was living with me, permanently. But what had happened up until Cindy had arrived on the scene, I would get visits from people. I was in during the day. David was at university. Sam was out gallivanting. Sam used to steal my little motorbike and go around the west end of Glasgow trying to pick up chicks. And so during the day, every now and again there would be a knock at the outside door. It was always a strange knock, a sort of tut 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 or a tut tut tut. It was never really an official knock. It was a strange knock depending on the personality of the person chapping, and these people were normally very weird, hippie-like, strange, kind of occult, black magic type people who were asking for Anna or Sam because they were occult types, black magic type of people. So I never really knew who was going to be out there when you opened the door. You never knew what you would get, but it tended to be someone a bit different. So one day, this was before I got in tow with Cindy, I opened up the door to a knock, and I saw this guy in front of me with black skin, African black skin, and he was wearing a checked jacket, very tight, very neat, and a crisp white collar. And I thought, that's Martin Luther King. I thought Martin Luther King had turned up at the door. I thought, what's he doing here? And this guy, he wasn't too tall, but he was compact in his build, and he was the neatest dressed man I've ever seen in my life. You could have cut yourself on the edge of his shirt. It was so crisp. And he said, "Good morning, young man," very well spoken. "I'm from the One World Foundation. I am here to speak to you about what we believe in, and we believe in the whole world coming together. And there's going to be a meeting of us next week, and I'm inviting you along to there, and there will be refreshments." And I thought, refreshments, and I like the sound of that, refreshments, because I hadn't eaten anything for weeks. And I thought, food, I like the sound of that, food. So I said, "Did you say refreshments?" He said, "Yes, if you come around on Wednesday, we'll be talking about this and that, and there'll be refreshments." I thought, that sounds beautiful to me. I said, "Well, in that case, I'll join up with this. You better come in and get this sorted." So I invited this Martin Luther King guy in, very straight-laced, speaking very properly, and ushered him into my little bedroom, and I sat on my swung down bed, and I had a little ancient armchair type thing with a worn out cushion and these polished wooden arms on it, and he sat on that, and I sat on my bed, and I said, "Okay, so what's the score here?" He said, well, he brought out a notepad and a pencil. He looked very formal, and he was saying, "Are these your books? What books are they? Do you read them?" And every time I said it, he was taking notes all the time. He was asking me polite questions, and then I was answering in a chit-chatty way, and he was taking. I thought, this guy's really quite serious. He said, now I want to explain to you about the fall of man." I said, "What? The fall of man?" He said, "Yes. A long time ago, it was a mistake. We became distant from God." And he's drawn pictures and saying, "Here you go. This is what it's all about. Have a look here. And this is us. And this is God. We were close. And then there was a separation. And now we are distant. And the One World Foundation is about connecting people up." Again, I said, "Yeah, okay, fair enough. what about the refreshments? So, after a little lecture, he was quite happy that he'd recruited me, and I thought, okay, fair enough, I'll keep in touch. And I let the guy away. He seemed pretty harmless, very friendly type of guy, and off he went, and he said he'd come back sometime. But what happened was things were taken over by events, because after he went away, I got in touch with this woman who looked like Wonder Woman, and she came to live with me for a wee while, and she was somebody who would be, as we wandered up and down by this road, she was such a looker that there was guys driving transit vans that used to toot at their horn and be swerving all over the road because of the sight of this woman, and she was flirting with them all the time, and there's all these guys hitting their horn, bap, 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 and she was smiling and grinning their way, sweeping her hair back, and these people were weaving all over the road, trying to keep their hand on the steering wheel. I just saw this beautiful woman, and I was getting daggers, because who's this walking the room with Linda Carter from Wonder Woman telly? So she was living with me, and she used to wander around in my shirt and with completely exposed legs. So that I had forgotten about this guy, and one day I was in my room, and Cindy had went into the kitchen to make a pot of tea or something. I don't think we were going to get anything to eat, because we never had it, and there wasn't a fridge or anything like that. And so probably all she was doing was making a pot of tea, and the outside door was chapped, and I went out. This was a few weeks later, and I opened up the outside door, and there was this guy again who looked like Martin Luther King. And he went, "Do you remember me? I am Jonathan from the One World Foundation." I thought, "Oh yeah, I think I do remember you." "Oh well, you better come in," because I saw him as being polite, as my friend. But he didn't realise that Cindy was there, and I didn't really explain it to him. I just invited him in, and I sat back on the bed when I went back into my room, and he sat on the chair, and he brought out his wee notepad again and started to go into the part 2 of his lecture on the fall of humanity and how we must get back together. And at that point, Cindy breezed into the room, and this guy's sitting there, and I hadn't thought about this, but this guy was a very straight-laced man in a tight check suit, shirt and tie, all starchy, and Cindy came in and just started to wander about, but because he was down low level, sitting on the chair with his notepad, her midriff or level, or just below that, the top of her legs was level with his face. So as she's wandering about, I hadn't thought about it because I was used. She was just part of the wallpaper there. I hadn't realised it. But this man was getting very hot under the collar, and I hadn't realised it. Simply very naive. And I said, well, and he just stopped speaking, and he looked fearful. And then he put his hand over his eyes, and I thought, what is it? Is the light too bright for you? He goes, "No, the lady, can she cover her legs? The lady, the young lady, she must cover her legs." And he looked really anxious, and he was holding his hands in front of his eyes so he couldn't see her legs. And I thought, what's going on here? And I realised just how upsetting this was. So I said to Cindy, "This is my friend, you better cover your legs up, because he's not really used to seeing women like you in this way." So she wasn't uncooperative or a bad person, so she did something to cover her legs up, and then she sat down on the bed, and we were looking at him and said, "So give us the stuff. What else have you got to say about the One World Foundation?" And by the way, Cindy said, "I'm a Quaker. Do you know that? I'm a Quaker." And he said, "Quaker, what?" And she said, and then she took over because she was quite a bossy type of person, Cindy. She said, "So let's all start this." And she said, You, David, say it first to me. If God is with you, who can be against you? And I said, okay. She's quite bossy. I said, okay, if God is with you, who can be against you? And then she said, yes, if God is with you, who can be against you? And she said, you say it now. And he went, if God is with you, who can be against you? If God is with you. And we're all chanting this away. And then the guy just panicked and ran out the door. I never seen him again after that.